Howdy, howdy. Welcome to Nuggets of Gold. I am Thomas Gold, wherever you are at and whenever it is at in your day. Thank you for joining me for this nugget as we chase after learning from God's Word and living God's Word together. Yes, it is true. In the last 24 hours, I had somebody try to steal God's money from me. I also, in the last 24 hours, almost sent a child of mine to a therapist, and what's the third one? Oh, and I almost got a guy fired. So these three things all have a common thread. Almost got ripped off, almost got a guy fired, and almost sent a child to therapy. All of these had a common thread, and the common thread is this. We've got to listen carefully to the words that others are using. We've got to listen, we've got to ask questions, we've got to dig for clarity, or in a phrase that helps me think better, we've got to fight for clarity. Before we have an emotional reaction in our relationships with people, we've got to make sure that what is being said or what we think we are hearing is truly what we're hearing. Let me walk through these scenarios with you. Yesterday, I got a phone call. A few years ago, our family was working in a church plant. I was pastoring a church plant, and we listed my phone number as the church's primary number. That's pretty typical. Church plants don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of technological resources, so my phone number was listed. People would call in, and churches all across the country often get calls from people who are in need. You know, somebody needing help with an electric bill or a rent payment, or they got evicted and they're calling and looking for help. And I got a call like that yesterday. This lady is crying and heaving, and she's telling me this story, and her baby and her electricity is going to get cut off, and her husband is in the army overseas. And I guess I've been to this rodeo. I've ridden this pony enough times to know that while my heart, my feelings are getting jerked out of my chest and I want to run to help, genuinely, I want to help those who genuinely need help. I've been to this rodeo enough to know a lot of these ponies that come kind of bucking and calling for help, some of them just are not true. And so I needed to spend time on the phone, and I asked this lady many questions, because my feelings are leading me to giving a bunch of money to this need, but is that the right thing to do? So as I asked her questions at the beginning of the conversation, her husband is in the army, and she hasn't been able to talk to him for a month because he's lost in the desert. And then a few minutes later, her husband is in the Air Force, and she hasn't talked to him in a week. And then her landlord has said one thing over here, and her landlord said another thing over here. So pushing for clarity, fighting for clarity, not fighting against her in a negative way, but just fighting for clearness in understanding led me to guard God's money rather than wasting God's money. Well, then I go to a event last night, and someone comes up who I had been in an email thread with over the last couple of days, and this guy comes up and says, man, I am really frustrated about this other guy in the email thread. Can you believe what he did? And I said, well, let's talk about what he did. And it turns out, after some talking, just for about 3 minutes, that there was a huge misunderstanding. And so my friend's frustration that was going to lead him to maybe go and fire someone, chilled out, totally calmed down, because clarity was reached. And then with my child yesterday, they said something about, I feel a particular way, and I took it one way, and whoa, I was blown away by what they were saying, and not in a good way. And I said, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by your words? So I have spent almost 5 minutes here on this video walking you through some everyday life circumstances that were reminders to me that we need to fight for clarity. And now I want to drop a verse on you. Proverbs 15, verse 14. The heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouth of a fool feeds on folly. I want you to hear that first line again. The heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge. And man, I want to remind you, we are so prone to fast reactions, to emotional overreactions, to relating to people based on what we think they said. I want to impress on us the importance of being a wise person who has understanding, because we seek after knowledge. We go in, we ask more questions. We are careful because people are valuable to us, more valuable than our reactions. And so go about life, and when you're confused or when you're frustrated by what others have said, go ask more questions. The heart of a person who is wise seeks knowledge. Be careful and bless your relationships by being patient and seeking after good, clear knowledge. We'll see you next time.